Well,
Number 2, Rabbi. You're going to have Wikipedia.
so we are starting now the 7th chapter of the laws of Yibum and Chalitza. We're going to have many more cases, as we already started in the previous chapter, some very unique scenarios of Yibum, when there is a Zika of Yibum, that actually the Zika is that which prohibits the Yibum, etc. This chapter has 22 halachas, beginning with halacha aleph. Shnayim min ha'achim nesuyim l'shtei achoyos. When two brothers that have other brothers marry two sisters, umesu shneim, and the two brothers that married the two sisters passed away, v'lo noida ezo mehem meis rishon, and we do not know which one died first. Hoyel v'iyef shaliyabim shteyem. Here's where we go. So now, say Reuven and Shimon both passed away. Levi cannot do Yibum to both. Why not, guys? Because you're not allowed to marry your wife's sister. Now, really, if you would have known who passed away first, what would happen? Then you would do Yibum or Chalitza with wife number 1. You understand? And then the other one would be either your wife's sister or the sister of the woman with whom you did Chalitza, and you're good. But here you don't know which one came first. In other words, so the only way out is both have to receive Chalitza, even though one does not need, but we don't know which one does not need. Neither of them can do Yibum. And even if one of these two anyways was already prohibited on Levi, let's say, but as we learned in the previous chapter, that would not exempt Levi from doing Chalitza. But if one of the two sisters, I mean, Reuven married one sister, right, Chagla, and Shimon married Milka. If one of these two sisters was an Erva on Levi, Erva would mean that it's Levi's wife's mother, it's Levi's wife's daughter. You understand? In other words, that woman, no matter who passed away first, anyways, has no zika with Levi. So now, so now the other one will be permitted to him. As we learned in the previous chapter, yes, there is a zika on a lav, on the chayav yaseh, certainly on a shniya, but not on a erva. Halacha beis, hoysa achas mehem asur ala yavam zeh mishum erva. If one of them was already asur, as we just mentioned, because of an erva, v'ho acheres asura ala yavam asheni mishum erva. In other words, until now we spoke about Reuven and Shimon, married Chagla and Milka, and Levi is living. Now let's say Levi and Yehuda are living. Notice when there's more than one living brother, and the punk works out that Levi anyways cannot have a connection to one of the widows. Yehuda cannot have a connection to the other of the widows. So it's perfect. Right, very good. So each one, with the one with whom he can do Yibum, has the normal option. Now, halacha gimel beis echad min ha'achim. It's a very important. Up until halacha gimel chevra, the scenario was that we do not know which brother passed away first, Reuven or Shimon. Now, halacha gimel is we know who passed away first. Beis echad min ha'achim. So again, Reuven and Shimon, one married Chagla, one married Milka. It's two brothers married two sisters. The two brothers have many other brothers. Reuven passed away. Shimon passed away. So one of them died. Reuven passes away. So the wife falls to Yibum. Now Shimon passes away. And the one that is falling liyibum to the brothers is Achois Harishoina liyibum. And both of them are living. So the din is Shteim Chaltzos, Eloi Nisyabois, Kamoi Sheba Arnu. That's halacha aleph. That's halacha aleph. Because there is a zika on both, and that's the rule. The rule is Whenever there is a zika on two sisters, that in itself does not allow you to do even with neither of them. Gewaldig. Now, halacha dal. Now, the reason why you cannot do yibum with both is because they are sisters. What happens if the second one passes away? In other words, understand like this, guys. In halacha aleph, we didn't know who passed away first. In halacha gimel, that's the key. We know who passed away first. So when Reuven passed away, Levi can do yibum if he wants with Reuven's widow. Elama, now that Shimon passed away, so now you have two sisters that both fell yibum. You can't do yibum with neither of them. But if now Shimon's widow passes away, so then Chazar Rishon Le'atera, which gives Levi the option. Okay, chalitza has to happen, but it can even be meyabin. But Meisur HaRishono, but what happens if the first one passes away? Here's the chap. And Harei doesn't allow Levi to do yibum with the widow of Shimon. And only why? That's the key. Because since when Shimon passed away, at that time, Reuven's widow was there. In other words, Shimon's widow was already asura to have yibum with Levi, because whenever you have two sisters, if a man has a zikah to two sisters, he cannot do yibum to neither of them, and there was never a moment that he was allowed to do yibum. That's why if the achrayna, if the first one passes away, you have to do chalitza only. Only chalitza will be the option. Again, like we said, Reuven and Shimon, it's not only Levi. There's Levi, there's Yehuda, there's other brothers. Once he did chalitza l'achrayna, since there was a shas heted l'rishayna, because halacha gimel is that we know that Reuven passed away first. Hutra rishayna l'sharo achim, sharei hazika she'asra oisa was removed by one of the brothers doing chalitza. Beautiful. Chein im hoisa rishayna erva alechem mehem is very important. In other words, what's the chap? If the first is an erva, it means that brother who cannot have who's asan mitzar erva with Reuven's widow. The beauty is he's allowed to do yibum with Shimon's widow, because if there's no two sisters, the first sister is completely out of the game. And v'kodem v'yiben asachrein shumoteres loy. Indeed, now hutra harishayna l'sharo achim sharei achreina she'asra oisa aleim nisyabna lamutalo, but avlam oiso achreina she asura lechem and bavad mishum erva. Which is fine. So the one who never had a zika with the achrayna, there's only zika to one sister, he's good to go. If he wants, he can do yibum. But we don't say over here, now that the older sister is married, so now Shimon's widow is muteres for yibum to the other brothers. No. That's the whole vart over here. In other words, if in the case where there is an isur to do yibum, from the moment she became a widow, there was never a shas heted, that's never going to be muttered. Not only that, even if they did it post facto, they have to get divorced. Now we're going into a new case. Shloisha achim. Shnayim mehem nusim l'shtei achoyos. Kevin is chalishing for pictures. I think Rabbi Steinsaltz decided that since he already made pictures and Pedig Vav, he expects us to hold the pictures in our brain right now. But Halkot, there are three brothers. Two of them are married to two sisters, right? Reuven, Chagla, Shimon, Milka, and Levi obviously is married stam to what we call the Nachriyos, right? Yakir, not a Goya, like we said, a stam, a non-sister. Now, Meisach and Nehem. Reuven or Shimon passed away. Let's say Reuven passed away. So far, there's only one widow. Levi can be married, doesn't matter. Levi can do yibum or chalitz. And as we learned in the previous chapters, that midrabanan, you don't stam do yibum. First, you do maimer. Well, the whole concept, just to speak out, that in every relationship, there are two steps in every relationship. First of all, there's the exclusivity. The exclusivity has to come first. Called Kiddushin, that we're not together yet, but we are making a commitment that we will be with no one else. That's the step of Kiddushin. And after you have such a boundary, then you can be together. What happens by Yibum? Yibum midoraisa, you never make that step. So the Chachamim says Maimer. Maimer is like Kiddushin. Maimer means that we won't be with anyone else. Now, so the third one did Bivim Te Maimer. Halkov, in Reuven's widow. Now, Vachakach Meis Bal Ha'achois Hasheni Shimon passed away. What's the word? So Vaita, it's beautiful. Now that we established Yakir, there's a simple rule. Whoever just walked in right now, Yakir came early. I'm speaking for you guys out there. That if a man has a zika to two sisters, he cannot do yibum to either of them. No, just like a man cannot marry two sisters, can't do that. So if you have zika to two sisters, you can't do yibum. You have to do chalitza to both. But here he already did maimer with one. The naflo ha'achais ashil lefnei hashlishi. So what the solution is, Gavaldik. Hadei zeh noisen get lebalas ha'maimer. So there's two sisters. Midoiraisa maimer did nothing. So you have a zika to two sisters. You can't be with either of them. You have to get rid of the maimer by a get. You have to get rid of the zika by chalitza. And the choylitz lo achoiso achreno. Look at the latinom lezor. Beautiful. In other words, if Levi Yakin would have done yibum with Reuven's widow before Shimon died, Shalom al Yisrael. That's it. He did the mitzvah. If Shimon then would have died, then Amachayet, then Shimon's widow on him is the wife of a sister. Erva. You don't need yibum. You don't do chalitza. Here he didn't do yibum. He did maimer. Maimer doesn't take away the issue of zik on two sisters. Halacha zay. Meizeh she'asa hamaimer. Let's go back. So let's go. Reuven and Shimon. Reuven died. Levi did maimer with Reuven's widow. Only maimer. Now Levi died. But like we mentioned, Levi was already married to another woman. Oh, so now you have both of these wives, both of these widows that are falling to whom, Yakir? Falling to Shimon. No, zog. Yes.
Who was the one that gave the money?
Levi. Shimon could not, I'll explain to you why, Yakir. Because Shimon doesn't even have a zika to Reuven's widow because Shimon is married to the widow's sister. Now that you thought you're not confused, that's to confuse you. Now we're going to go back to Zion. This is the best thing when you're in the middle of these cases to go back to the other case. It's moidedik. Now you really have to help up. Okay, now. So again, Reuven, Shimon, Levi. Reuven and Shimon married Chag and Milcah. Levi married Miriam. Reuven died. Levi did Maimer. Now Levi died, which means Levi has two widows. No, not two widows. He has the connection to Reuven's widow because he did Maimer. And he has Miriam. Now, if Levi Stam would have died without doing Maimer, what would have happened? Shimon would have to do Yibam or Chalitza with Miriam. It's his brother's wife. Here, there was a co-wife. The co-wife is an Erba, but it's not a co-wife because Midaraisa, it's not a co-wife. He only did Maimer. But if Levi would have married her, so that's the whole thing we were learning in the last chapter, right? That if one wife is an Erba, not only is they are out, all of them out. But here, she's out altogether. Why is she out? Because she's a sister of Shimon's. Now, now, if she's out, the other wife is not completely out, Yakir, because he didn't properly marry her. Midoraisa, he wasn't married to her. He only did Maimer. But on the other hand, he can't do Yibum, because she was on the level of Midrabanan, a co-wife to an Erva. Beautiful. Because she ain't a Maimer, coin the Kenyan Goma, because she does not so. Beautiful. Next case. It's God's decision. Oh, okay. Oh, one second. Very important. Thank you. Okay. Let's take a step back. Never, ever is there a marriage against both parties' consent. Never. No, 1 second. Divorce, you have to know these rules like before we begin this. Divorce, biblically, could be given against a woman's consent. It changed. It could be given. But you have to pay your money. That's the ksuba. You can divorce her against her will. There's no such a thing as a marriage against her consent. There is no such a thing. So whenever we're speaking about these scenarios, both parties obviously have to consent. Of course, a woman can do this in a marriage. Hello?
But she doesn't need to go, if a woman doesn't want to get married to the house, to the brother, she doesn't need to go through anything.
She has to go through chalitza. Of course. It's like a woman who's married to a man and she decides one morning, I don't want to be married to him. No one can force her to be in the marriage. You can't force a person like you can't force a man, but you need to get both ways. If a man wakes up one morning and says, oh my God, I was blind. I thought I married Rachel. My wife is not Rachel. She's Leah. Now I see who she is. I don't want to be married to her. You're going to try to talk him out of it, but at some point you can't force people ever to be in a marriage. But it doesn't mean that they can just walk away. If there's a bond, a legal bond, you have to undo the legal bond. One signs a contract to be in a building, you lease.
But when the brother passes away, is there a legal bond for the sister to marry the other brother?
He's legally bound to all of the brothers, and that has to be resolved. If they want to consummate it, yibum. If either party doesn't want to consummate it, then they have to do chalitza because they're bound together.
Can the brother not give like a get?
Get doesn't resolve this. A get does not resolve
I
this.
know, but a man cannot give a get to a woman sometimes because he wants to give her a problem. Can that happen also?
Sure. Both parts. 1 second. Two ways. You're wording it in a very not truthful way. A woman can also not receive a get to mess him up. Everyone. I'm saying if something is needed and you have people that are not healthy people. Okay. Very good. Halacha ches. Now that was the Yakir went from halacha zayin to halacha vav. Yaron went from halacha zayin back to the beginning, which is good to go to the beginning. Start with Bereshis. Okay, now let's go back to halacha ches. Now you have to remember everything again. Echad v'nayivamim shekidush achoisivim toy. Halt up over here. Okay. Reuven passes away. He left a widow. He did not deal with this, which he has to. He didn't do yibum. He didn't do chalitza. He didn't marry. He did kedushin. The genius. The first thing he does is from left field. First he did. He did. Now what happens? I'll tell you what happens, guys. Once you're married to a woman, you're not allowed to marry your sister. So it's now that he gave kedushin. Now there's a problem with the yibum, but the chiyuv of yibum came first. Now, can he marry this woman? Can he marry the woman he gave kedushin to? No, because he has a zika to the sister. That's what we're learning. You can't have a zika to two sisters. You can't marry neither of them. So 1 second. What's the procedure? They tell him, Hamtain, wait. Al tigarshena, don't divorce this woman yet. Don't marry her yet. The one that you did kedushin with. First, ad sheyiyabim achicha. Now, guys, there's another thing over here. We're speaking about Reuven who passed away. Shimon gave kedushin to Reuven's widow. No. To Reuven's sister, but there's a Levi. Now, the beauty here, if Levi will now do yibum or chalitza to the Yivama, so now Levi took away the zika. Now you can go further. Now, chalatz lo achiv or yibma, if Taka Levi did that, or if the Yivama passed away, now Shimon can continue to consummate this genius, the kedushin he gave to the sister of his Yivama. But what happens if Mesu Echav Kulam, all the brothers die, which means Yaron Yakir, there's no one else left to resolve that. Now it's only him. Now he has a zika to the Yavama, and he gave kedushin to the Yavama's sister. So what do we do over here? So Moitzi Yaraswasi beget. Why does he have to divorce with the get? This is called Achois Zikul Kasai. You're not allowed to marry the sister of a woman with whom you have a zika. And you have to give your Vama Chalitza. Why? Because you gave Kedushin, because he gave Kedushin to her sister. Now, I want to tell you something. The issue of marrying a sister, two sisters, is even after a get. In other words, the fact that you gave her a get doesn't resolve the union with the sister of your wife, which is prohibited. The only time a married can marry two sisters if one passed away. If he divorces one, he cannot marry the other. Now, 1 second. If she passed away, so now there's only the Yavama. Ben Shemesa, Koyde Misa Suachim, Ben Shemesa, La'achim Misasim. Now, Chazra Yavama Leteda, and that's really what we learned in the beginning of the chapter. It's when a woman becomes a widow, and from the outset there is an issue, you got an issue. Here, before Shimon the genius gave Kedushin to the Yavama's sister, everything was muteres. If he wanted, he could have done Yibum. So, Taka, if now the Arusa, the engaged woman passed away, this is so good. Doesn't help. Too late. That's it. Now, finally, Kavan gets this picture. All I would say is that you're focusing on the wrong picture. Focusing on the wrong picture. Picture to the left. That's the right picture. This is Gavaldi. Guys, halacha tes is the picture to the left. Whoever doesn't have the picture, the Rambam didn't write a picture. The Rambam expects of you to chap it without a picture. Imagination. Halacha shloisha achim. You have three brothers. Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Shnayim emnusim l'shtei achoyos. Two of them married two sisters. So he decided to spice things up. Forget about Milka and Chagla. Now we're going back to Rachel and Leah. So listen, this is what happened, guys. Shimon married Rachel. Levi married Leah. Okay, two brothers married. But on top of that, each one, Shimon and Levi, both have a second wife. So Shimon is married to Rachel and Chana. Levi is married to Leah and Miriam. I'm just quoting the names that he gave. And Chana and Miriam are not related, guys. Okay? And Leah and Rachel, we know, are sisters. Now, both Levi and Shimon passed away, right? And therefore, now what did we learn, guys? What has to happen over here? None of them are an Erva on Reuven. But since they are two sisters, he has Zika to two sisters. So we learned in this chapter, that's the whole chapter, that if you have Zika to two sisters, you cannot do Yibum with neither of them, but you have to do Chalitza. Now we have to do Chalitza to both because they're from different husbands. Okay, 1 second. Now here's the question. So in other words, the Chiv of Chalitza is there. Now, what's the rule, guys? If a man passes away with two widows, with whom do you have to resolve the issue with Yakir? Only one of them. You don't have to do Chalitza to both. Do it with one of them. You do Yibum, everything is resolved for everyone. You do Chalitza with one, everyone is Muteres Lashuk. But over here, if now Reuven does Chalitza either to Miriam or to Chana, then Ataka resolved everything. Because there was a bona fide Zika. Yes. And therefore, Niftur HaChoyos. Here's the Chiddush of this halacha. Avalim Chalatz LaChoyos, it's Reuven, who cannot do Yibum. But if he did Chalitza with the sisters, Lo Niftaru Tzaraseyem, At Sheyach Litzu, Hatzaris, until he also does Chalitza with the co-wives. Why, guys? The Pnei Shechalitzas Achoyos is called the Chalitza She'ena Mu'ulam. What's called the Gatzasugi in Yevamis? Chalitza Mu'ulam means Chalitza with a woman with whom you could have done Yibum. Whenever you're doing Chalitza with a woman, there's a new din, we never had this before, with whom you cannot do Yibum, you have to do Chalitza. But think about it, I can only sever the bond, right? If the bond is 80% strong, I can only sever 80% of it. If the bond is 100% strong, then I sever all of it. I'm severing whatever is. The co-wives have 100% zika. The fact that the two sisters are not allowed to have yibum with, in our case, Reuven, that means the zika is not that strong. So if he severed a weaker zika, he cannot sever the stronger zika. That's what we learned in Perikei. Oh, thank you. And now, like this, halacha yud, I'm saying, guys, I just want you to know that this is complex. It doesn't get that much more complex. That what? That v'ha'achas mehem is asura al yevama mishum shniya v'chayotzeba. That's what we learned in the previous chapter. One of them is also mechayav ilav. One is mechayav yasei. So what did we learn? That was the big klal, one of the big rules we learned in Perek Vav, which is if one widow is an erva, then she paters herself from the tzara. But if one of the wives is like we mentioned, is taka aser, but only aser mitzad shniya, or lav, or asay, and therefore you have to do chalitza. Let's apply the same rule. She'im chalatz la'asura, the same logic. But the other way direction, chalatz l'tzaratza utra asura. Next case. Now for the next case, Keva, now you can give your picture that you're itching to give, the picture to the right. Halacha Yud Aleph. If you would see Kevin smile, Kevin is not smiling because he's not awake yet. Let's go. Shloisha. Now we're talking. And he changed all the names. 3 brothers. So we're going back to yesterday's names. Reuven married Milka. Shimon married Chagla. Okay. And Vashlishi, Levi married Miriam. Miriam is not related to Chagla Milka. So let's say Reuven passed away. Now when Reuven passed away, Shimon has no zika to Milka because Shimon is married to Chagla. Clear. So who's here? Levi. Levi's married to Miriam. Miriam is not related to Milka. So Levi did Yibum right to Milka. So now Levi has 2 wives. He's married to Shimon's wife's sister and to his original wife. Now Shimon's wife passed away. Shimon's wife passed away, not Shimon. Chagla passed away. You have to chap that. Chagla passed away. It's amazing. And now Levi passes away. Aha. The Noflu. Now, don't forget, Levi went, before he passed away, was married to Miriam and to Milka. You know who's alive, guys? Shimon is still living. They all died, Shimon leapt. So what happens? So Shimon has a brother called Levi. Levi is married to Miriam and to Milka. When Levi passed away, that's the key. When Levi passed away, Chagla already passed away. When Levi passed away, and yeah, we just mentioned, a man cannot marry his wife and her sister, but if the wife passes away, then he is allowed to marry the sister. At the moment that Levi's 2 widows, Miriam and Milka, fell liyibum l'Shimon, neither of them was an erva. That's the case. So listen to this. Wow. Why? Tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because Yakir, when Reuven passed away, there was a moment that Milka was a Yavama. At the moment that Milka was a Yavam, before Levi passed away, at that moment, Shimon was not allowed to marry her. Why? Because then she was an Erva. No, it's Milka already was, not now, not when Levi died, when Reuven died. And since when Reuven died, at that moment, Shimon was not allowed to marry Milka, that issue never goes away. See, it's interesting. When I met before any passing away, if Shimon is married to Chagla, so then the din is if Chagla passes away, from then on forwards, he can marry the sisters. But since when she fell Le'ibum, at that moment, we said, you can. So now, Nesar of La'olam, Bishum Eshes Ach, Kedin Eshes Ach, Shalei Ba'olamim.
All right, the X should not be on Shimon, it should be on Chagla, on the second figure.
You're right. That was a mistake. Very good. Exactly, because Shimon is living here. Very good. And now the Hanachris and Miriam. So that's the rule. The Hanachris were Shum Tzara. So you don't need anything. Now Halacha Yud Beis v'chein shnei yachim. Nesuyim l'shtei achoyos. 2 brothers married 2 sisters. Umeis echad mehem. Which, as we just explained, so then the living brother is he has no connection. And and now the wife of the second passed away. Now that the wife passed away, Yakir, you can argue now he's allowed to marry her. Too late. That issue will never go away. But in contrast, a normal case, guys, no one. A man divorced his wife, then he remarried her, and then he dies. We're not talking about two sisters. There's a rule that if a man marries a woman, even if he divorces her, his brother can never marry her. That's called Eishes Ach. The only time Eishes Ach is mutter is by Yibum. Here, muteres liyav. There was a moment where she was asura ilamis because hadei chazra lehatera. What we are looking for is the moment of nefil. That's the key. Uchshemeis achiv betera isoy medes. Masha'in can above. That's the key. B'shas, in the case we have when Reuven died, Milka then was asura l'shimon. That issue will never go away. Halacha Yud Gimel. Ketano shisi aviyah. Now, a father has the biblical power to marry off his minor daughter, so that's a biblical marriage. That will be key. And v'geir shabayla, and the husband divorced her. And now v'hechazira. V'hechazira means, guys, I want you to know, the remarriage, guys, if you remember, the dinner is not it's not a full-fledged marriage because the father only has the right to marry her off once. That's key. And now this husband dies, and this wife is still a ketana, and the husband has brothers. Why? So here's the key, guys. Because like this, like we mentioned, when a man is married to a woman, forget about you. A man is married to a woman, the brothers can never marry her. When they're married, she's a married woman, and she's married to the brother. Even if the husband divorces her, she's Eishes Ach. That's the issue here. The husband married this ketana, the father. Then he divorced her. So the marriage was a marriage. The gerushin is a gerushin. The remarrying is not a full-fledged marriage. If the remarriage is not a full-fledged marriage, so midoiraisa, she's Eishes Ach. That was married. Asur liyavin. B'pnei shegerusha gerushin gemura. Sherei avia isiyah. Ve'ein chazros chazari gemura. Because she'ein kitchen gemura. Kamei shubiyarno. When Allah hey. Now v'hu adin. Now based on this, similar cases, which is if a person l'magadish pikachas. If a person divorces a woman while she's well mentally, and then vinis charsha, she becomes deaf mute, and he decides to remarry her, and once he remarries her, right, that was the whole vart. It's not kiddushin gemurim. You understand? No, he was married to her. When he divorced her, Yakir, none of the brothers can ever marry her. He remarried her, but only midrabanan because she was deaf mute, and now he died. And she's veinicha chereshes shehi asur liyavim. B'chlal ve'eder chalatzas lo misabemes. Another din. V'tzoras ketana zu, the one in the beginning of Halach Yud Gimel, the one that the husband remarried. All right, in the beginning of Yud Gimel. Oy chereshes zu of Halach Yud Daled. Now their tzara mamish oy chalatzas lo misabemes because they're not even married. The beauty is you can do yibum. You can do yibum with them. But even though the marriage began only midrabanan, but when she became an adult, or if she got healed, he remained with her. That is a bona fide kedushin gemurin. Now, if he passes away, goes back. Like this. Ruin Lamoin is because the marriage was only by the mother or by the older brothers, which means again it's not a proper marriage. You can only refuse. Or if both of these sisters were chedshois and umeis echad mehem. So what's the din now? They were both married on the same level. The woman, the widow, is completely exempted both from yibum and from chalitza. That's called teitzem mishum achois isha, meaning upturim and achlis min hayibum. And let me go further. Just to give a heads up. And the guy, the living brother, who's married to the sister, that marriage be allowed to continue. In contrast to, we're going to have certain cases where the current marriage is going to get messed up as well. Oh, so far, so good. Everything stays the same. Hoyu achas gedoyla achas ketana. Now, guys, halt up. Gedoyla means nesuyin midoiraisa. Ketana, we're speaking about a ketana that's nesuyin derabanan. We're not speaking about the father married her off. Now, meis bala ketana. Now, the guy that's married to her older sister, what is this ketana? Achois ishtoi machayim. There's nothing. But what is the Rambam getting to? This is the case. What happens if Meis Bala Gedoyla? So let me explain to you what's going on over here. Meis Bala Gedoyla means that biblically this widow fell lezika to Shimon, to the living brother. Shimon is married midrabanan to this woman's sister. So what do? You can't be married to Achois Zuku Kasai. Now, if he would have been mamish married, then it wouldn't do anything. Whereas if he would have been married to his wife, Midoy Raisa, then she's Achois Ishtoi, Teitzei, but there's no Teitzei. Now you got a problem. Because since he's not fully married to his wife, so there's still a Zika to this widow. But the widow is Achois. His current wife is Achois Zuku Kasai. The Zika is to the sister of his wife. So what do you do? So since his current marriage could be undone with miyun, we tell the current wife to do miyun. At least, what are you saving? The current wife at least won't be trapped. The older sister, the widow, can become muteres liyavama. Of course, he can do chalitza. But if the marriage will continue, you're stuck. This man cannot be with anyone. Let's go weiter. Halacha tazayin. Shnei achim chershin, two brothers that are deaf you, that married to achois pikchois. You know how smart are they if they marry a cherish? I don't know, but they're still pikchois. Two chershin, a good shidduch, marry two cherishes. That works much better. Or the brothers are both cherishin. You have to help up. The wives, achas pikachas v'achas chereshes. The key is, Yakir, if the men are deaf mute, it's not a nesuim gemoy. Chen shtei achois chereshes that are nesuis l'shnei acham pikchem oy chereshim oy yacham pikchem cheresh. In all of these cases, it's a rabbinic marriage. It's not a full-fledged marriage. And here it's better. Better meaning, since they're both married, because of a chaysisha. In other words, on whatever level the marriage is, guys, that's the word. The other one is a sister to your wife. So here you go, but in contrast, same concept. Here's the word. One is a pikeach, which means this guy that's a pikeach, his marriage will be a proper marriage. That's where everything gets messed up. The soy and the shteyachoyos, either they're both pikchois. But if the brother is a cheresh, so then that marriage is only midrabanan. But the key is that it's a pikeach with a pikachas. There was one marriage that's biblical, one marriage only rabbinical. That's the case. So if meis a cheresh, that's good, because then the widow, she's a widow of your proper sister. She's the sister of your proper wife. Amachaya. She's out. There's no issue. The problem will be like we had before. In other words, the widow of a biblical marriage is falling liyibum to a rabbinic marriage. And therefore, the zika zeh is gemura because it was his gadol's widow, and he himself is married to a sister, but it's only a rabbinic marriage. Now you got a problem. Can't be with your wife because your wife is the sister to someone with whom you have zika. The Eishes Achiv HaPikeach will also be Asura La'olam. You can't why? You can't marry. You can't, even though you divorced his sister, you can't marry the wife of your divorced, the sister of your divorced wife. Another din. Pedek Dalet. Look how bad it is. You can't even do chalitza because you cannot do a chalitza if you're a cheresh. Pedek Dalet. Now, Why does he have to give her a divorce? In other words, he's a chedesh. Let's go with this. A chedesh is not a bnei mitzvah. And if a katan is eating the avelas, she ain't based in the mitzvah lahafrishi. That's a gavaldik kasha. You know, you're not allowed to give him be a dayim, but you're not the mitzvah lahafrishi. I'm going to chachamim like this. That im teshav ishta imoy. Nim says, what's going to happen if he's going to stay with his wife? Right? People will say, "Achois inisas lazar." V'yoimru niftedes mishum achois isha. And it's not true. Why is it not true? Because his marriage to the sister is only midrabbanan. Which is like a tragedy. Halacha yutes. Chein. Shnei yachim pikchim. V'suyim l'shtei achoyos. Achas pikachas v'achas chereshes. In other words, guys, one marriage is biblical, one marriage is rabbinical. Umeis balachareshes. Now you're good. That's the case that you're good. They'd say the widow is exempt because of a choisisha. What? Meis balapikachas. Chap. Moitzes sish techaresh beget. At least here you can resolve. That's why this is better than in the case of Yud Zayin, because in the case of Yud Zayin, we're speaking about the living guy was a chedesh. A living chedesh cannot even do chalitz. Halacha. Shnei achim. Echad pikach v'echad chedesh. The chedesh, not one normal wife, two normal wives. Now, one of these wives are never on the pikeach, because the pikeach also is married, and this woman is the mother. Now, when Mesa chedesh, shtei betunas al kaponim. What pshat? Gaval. Im nesuy erven nesuyin. Haresh nitzarasa uptura. Im ein nesuy erven nesuyim. Then kachli nesuy tzarasa nesuyim. Nice. Halacha chafal. Hoyse bita chayotze b'chereshes. Chayotze means any. Whenever you learn in these dinim, bita means, guys, my daughter can marry my brother, uncle, niece. So that's the beginning of August of Yivam knows. There's scenarios where a woman is mutter to one brother and erva to the other. Chayotze means it can be other cases where there's a woman that's permitted to the brother, right, but forbidden to him. It was a kosher marriage, but to the evil. If she is a chareshes, the daughter, this woman, and then and now the pikeach, my friends, dies. Okay, you with me? So, and what did we learn? What did we learn, my friends? We learned that when you have a man with two wives, if one of them is an erva on the living brother, then no one has to do anything. But over here, that's the word. The erva doesn't have a rabbinic marriage. You understand, Yakir? So how can she exempt the tzara? You cannot exempt the tzara. Now, on the other hand, you cannot marry the tzara because there is a marriage. You can't do yibum. You can't do yibum to the tzara of an erva. So choyletzes. Choyletzes let me abanish. Final halacha of this chapter. It doesn't only mean two sisters. It means it means a mother and a daughter. It means a grandmother and a granddaughter. It means that we're one man who's married to that relative, the on the widow. And therefore, because of erva, not lav, not say, not shniya, erva. Only mean the sister. And now we are going to learn. Let's see if we can get the mute over here. That did very good. The final chapter of today, which also is the final chapter of Yom Chalitza. People say the final chapter, you think you're an easy street. You're not yet an easy street. But if your brain is already into it, it will be easy street. And you know what? Sometimes it's good when it's not easy. Easy is boring. So Perek Shmini, guys, is all about Sveikas. And there's going to be some phenomenal cases of Sveikas, like unbelievable. And we'll see what the suffix will do when it comes both to Yibum and to Chalitz, even though the general rule will be when there's a suffix, generally, since the brother's wife is an erva, What's mated? The mitzvah of Yibum, there's a suffix normally, Choltzois v'lo b'yabnis, but we're going to have beautiful cases. This chapter has 13 halachas. It's relatively, it's not such a big chapter. And beginning with halacha aleph. Says the Rambam, Misha kiddush achas b'shtei achoyos. Ve'ena yadua ezu mehem kiddush. No. How romantic. No, by Rachel and Leah, Yaakov thought he's marrying Rachel. Here he doesn't know. Now, now 1 second. Kiddush. And Reuven passes away. And v'lo yochechot. That's the first case of a suffix. What's the issue over here? The issue is choylets l'shteyim kadei latiram lacherim. Moshe, can you do yibum to any of them? Because because if Reuven gave kedushin to Leah, and now that Reuven died, Leah has a zikah to Shimon, so Leah's sister Rachel is called Achoy Zikul Kasoi. We don't know who's the Achoy. Yibum cannot be done with what Chalitza both need.
Why do we assume?
Now, for
Why do
Reuven
we
left.
assume that the women are not going to tell the truth?
What was that?
Why do we assume that the two ladies will not tell the truth?
Well, he's asking if even though Reuven doesn't remember, don't the sisters remember? So let me give you a case, Keva. You're saying a good point. It must be the sisters don't know. What will be an example? We had this. The example will be is that both of these sisters are minors. The father has the right to marry off his minor daughters. So this Reuven, the genius, went over to the dad and he gave kedushin for one of your daughters. Reuven doesn't know which daughter. The father doesn't care which daughter. The daughters don't even know that the father was Makabel kedushin. No one knows. That answers your question. Okay. Now, okay. Now, Reuven, who passed away, has two brothers. Now there's a solution. Now, when there's only one brother, so one of them is Taka Yavama, theoretically, he just didn't know which one. The other one is a Chois, Zukul Kasei, get married. But if the two brothers, here's the solution. One does Chalitza, to any one of the two, but that step has to happen first. That's going to be the Yesod for many halachas. One does Chalitza first, and now the Rambam is going to speak out why that works, but it has to be Chalitza first. And the other brother, Miyabim Lishnia Al Kopanim. He doesn't have to do Yibum, Yakir, but he could even do Yibum. Why does that resolve the issue? Because Mimanav Shech. Imzu Hi Shekidish Achid. The second guy, the second brother. If this woman was Taka the widow, if she's the widow, so then Ayivamais. Now, the Im Eino Eishes Achid. Why? Because the brother got engaged to the sister. One brother can marry a sister, another brother can marry the other sister. That was all these cases. Reuven can marry Chagla and Shimon can marry Milka. No problem. So then, now 1 second. What about the other wife? The other wife got Chalitza. In other words, if this one is a stranger, that means the other one was the Yavama, she got Chalitza. So everyone is covered. But it has to be, guys, remember this, that's the beginning of many halachas. First Chalitza, why can we do the other Seder? Let me read it inside. Why? Because when you're doing Yibum, maybe you're doing Yibum with the wrong one. And you have a zikah to the sister. How can you Yibum with them be like marriage? How can you marry a woman if you have a zikah to a sister? Let's read it. Shemo acheres eshes achid v'nimtza shenosas kroim avziku kasoi. Gewaldig. Now, what happens if kol mushnei ha'achid v'kol mushnei ha'yivams? See, the issur of marrying a ziku kasoi is lachatchila. If two brothers, Reuven died, Reuven got kedushin to one of the two sisters. We don't know which one. Reuven dies, he has Shimon and Levi. Each one did yibum. Once they did that, ein motziyim miyadam. Why is that? I'll tell you why. Because I'm not allowed to marry to the sister zikukasai. But after both brothers marry, the marriage removes the zika. Once you remove the zika, like we said, Reuven can marry one sister, Shimon can marry another sister. Gavaldik. Let's go right now. We have to move. Shnei halacha beis shnayim, guys. It's going to go back to this then. Shnayim sheketzu shtei achoyos. Two people that are not brothers. Two people, Yakir, that are not brothers, not relatives, but they married two sisters. And again, each one doesn't know who they married. Zeni de ezu kiddush, zeni kiddush, and they both passed away. And each one has a brother. Again, the problem is that each of these brothers, there's two widows. One of them is your widow. One is a sister to your widow. In other words, one has a zika, one has a chayziko kasser. Neither of them can do yibum. The only solution is zeh choylitz l'shteyem, v'zeh choylitz l'shteyem. At least you free her up. But zeh lo zeh echad lo zeh shnayim. Now, guys, it's going to get to beautiful. We're going to get soon, Yakir, where each one has two brothers. One has one brother, one has two brothers. So yechidi, that has to be the same. The one who is the only brother from the deceased has to do chalitza to both. And now v'hashnayim. Now we go back to halacha al. One of the shnayim, one does chalitza, and at least one can do yibum. V'hashnayim echad chaylis l'rishon, v'hashenim yabim. And here again, the im kadmu v'kansu, as we had at the end of halacha aleph, emitzin miyadam. And more than that, now there's another thing. A chalutza is asura b'derabanan on a kohen. But these women that got from the first brothers, from the first man's brothers, got chalitza, maybe that chalitza was not necessary. Every woman can claim who says I'm a chalutza. That's called a suffix chalutza. A suffix chalutza b'di'evet can stay with her kohen. Shachalitza shochalutza yichidi misafik chalutz. B'chalutza sort of l'kohen medivrei soifrim. And therefore, that's a big klal. O suffik chalutza loy gazru gavaldik. Halacha gimel hoy l'zeh shnei yachad. It's getting even spicier. Again, halacha base. Two non-brothers, no relation. Each one married. One of the two sisters. No one know who married who. These two men died. Each one has two brothers. So let's go. Achiv shel zeh choylitz le'achas v'achiv shel zeh choylitz le'achas. That's the seder. And then if they want, this is amazing. As the Rambam spoke out in halacha aleph, it's the same logic. And furthermore, why not? You're not allowed to marry Yakir. You're not allowed to marry kroiva zikul kasoi. Beautiful. And again, as we had in Allah, if both violated that, and both of them got married. See, once both got married, once you do yibum, you remove the zika. So you're not married to a chayzikul kasei. Post facto. Mamish like before. Now listen to this. A woman has sons. I'm not even going to look at the picture because the picture didn't help me. For me, I got this in my brain. Yeah, a woman has sons, and one of the sons got married, Yakir. So that means she has a daughter-in-law, and then daughter-in-law has sons. So far we have a mishpacha that there are sons. Sons means that they're achim from the matriarch, and there are achim, sons of the daughter-in-law. Yeah. Okay, now here's what happened. This matriarch and the kala got pregnant at the same time. This is a classical case in the Mishnah. And they both gave birth in a cave, in a hidden place. And right away from the outset, these babies got mixed up. Now understand what's going on over here, guys. The kud will be is that these guys, these kindalach, who are their brothers? Either their brothers are the bnei, the isha, or they are the bnei, the kala. That will be the ways we're going to word it. The Yoldu Shneim b'machvoya achas, they were both born in this cave, and v'nesor b'shnei yeladim, and these two Taroivas kids grew up. And listen, both of them. This is the first case. I mean, we're going to cover all the cases now. Who passed away? First is that these, we're going to call them the Taroivas kids. We don't know. The Nosnu Noshnim Uva Meson, they both got married and they both died. How will these widows be allowed to marry other people? In other words, what has to happen? Now let me explain something over here before we read inside. Just to know for the record. A man can marry his niece. A man cannot marry his aunt. That will be a part of the dynamic. Because let's think like this. The other sons of the Isha, if this guy was the B'nai of the Kala, if he was a son of the Kala, then the B'nai Ha'isha can marry, and not the other way around. So that's going to be the complexity here. So B'nai HaKala, Cholzen L'Shteyem Tchilav Lo Meyabnim, Shekol Achas Mishteyem, Safik She Eishes Achiv. Either she's Eishes Achiv, which means, guys, Muteres Lo means more, it's a mitzvah, Yibum, but maybe not. Maybe it's not their brother's wife. Maybe it's their uncle's wife. Safik She Eishes Achiv, which is an erva. So they have to do chalitza. So I guess if she is connected to them, at least, and if not, but Avo B'nei Hazekena. Now here's the good thing: the B'nei Hazekena, oy cholzen oy miyabnim, because im he zu eishes achiv mitzvah, the im he eishes ben achiv, so it's a niece, big deal. Now, 1 second. She has a zika. No, but because she already got chalitza from the other family. But you have to first cover the chalitza. Halacha, hey. Now the other direction. Halacha Dalit, who passed away, these kids that we don't know who their mother is passed away. Now we're speaking about the other ones. You understand? The living ones are these taroims. Everyone else died. Who is living? The B'nai HaTaroives Kayamin. How great is this? So B'nai HaTaroives, Tu L'Neshei B'nai Hazekena. What's the issue, Yakin? If they are the sons of the Kala, then it's an ant. So only Chotel Yam. Because, like we mentioned, she's it might be an ant. However, in the other direction, so why? Because in ben hakala who's eshachalatz tchila, harei chalatz eishes achiv. V'asheni min hataroives who ben hazekeno motul elisa eishes ben achiv achim mivala. The im zeshachalatz tchila who ben hazekela harei chalatz leeishes ben achiv v'lo yasa klum. You did nothing. And now there's Yibum. So you're doing Yibum. Halacha new case. Now the new case is predicated on the din of Havchana. Havchana means that whenever a woman steps out of a marriage, doesn't matter if she got divorced, doesn't matter if she got widowed, she has to wait 3 months before she marries another man. Why? Because if she'll get pregnant right away, based on the Torah's understanding that there could be a full-fledged, full-term pregnancy in 6 months and 1 day, it's called 7 months, like Moshe Rabbeinu. 3 months before the end of the 9 months, we won't know who the dad is. So that will be another case of a suffix. So you have a woman that did not wait the 3 months. She got married and she gave birth. It's the same thing. Who is the tata? The ene yedua im ben tishol elishay, im ben shivalach. Now, so this is the woman. Now let's continue. This same woman has sons bevadai from husband number 1 and other sons bevadai from husband number 2. Now we have to also go in both directions, like we had before. Now, so what do we do over here? Now here there's no erva, right, Yakir? Only question is, which brothers have the zika? I take that back. There is an issue. What's the issue? The issue is no. The issue is 1 second. If someone is coming to do yibum, shema einoi achiv me'aviv, but beautiful. Eishes ach is whether it's maternal or paternal. The erva. The erva is eishes ach, even if it's only maternal. The mitzvah of yibum is only paternal. That's the word. V'hanehu achiv me'imai bavadai. The eishes achiv me'imai also asura al ha'odam lo'olam. There's never even the heter of yibum. You got it? Ben asafik. In the other direction, if the other brothers die, here it's simple. The only solution is chalitza v'lo miyabim. But now we're going to have a kula. It's atkan only chalitza. I'm calling that a chumrah. But Allah chazayin hoya ben l'rishayin uben l'sheni shaloi meishazu that got married b'toich asman. You got it. So now there's a possibility, Yakir, that it's taken not a brother. Now only the mother is the link. So there's a suffix only on the mother. Umeis echad of these two brothers. Areis that have ben hasafek. That's the beauty. Here there's an out. Why? Because mimanavshach. Here we say mimanavshach. She'im achiv me'avivu. Haka brother, but he has the mitzvah of yibum. And if it's not achiv me'aviv, hadi ein b'neim achva klal. And therefore he's allowed to marry someone else's wife. Then she's not married now. Great. Allah ches. But that's if one of the brothers died. But meis haben hasafek. What happens if this guy dies? First, going back to the beginning of this chapter, like the Rambam is going to speak out. Say that woman is free. She got chalitza. Stop. She's a woman, a widow. Beautiful. These are the tragic cases. And we're taka lenient. And she got married. And then the original husband comes back. And we're going to learn in Hilchos Gerushin. We learned in Hilchos Gerushin the tragedy that she needs to get a get from both. Well, don't forget it. Even though you say, now that I know the husband was alive, the second marriage was not a marriage, but that's the chachamim. If a woman is in the suyin, shelo yoimru eishes ish is muteres below, she needs to get from both. Before she got to get from both, umeisu shneim. No, she was mizana. Both have to give a get. Now, prior to her getting a get, guys, a divorcee has no issue with Yiva Machalitza. She's needed a get. Umeisu shneim and l'zachem za'achim. Achiv shel zeh v'achiv shel zeh choltzim v'lo miyabim. Pasha. No, that's the rule, guys. Whenever she's asura to be with her husband, what's it called? Muter lo asur lo asur. Halacha chamesh nashim. Now comes the final case. This is going to blow your brains off, but here we go. 5 nashim. Shahaya l'chol achas mehen ben yadua. Yadua means she knew that this is her son, the normal, and aside of each one knowing who their son is, these two chavertes, the two friends, they got pregnant at the same time. They gave birth again at the same time, and now there are 5 other kids. No one knows who the mom is. And these taroivus kids married women, and all 5 of these men died. So my question is actually very simple. There's no erva here, but what needs to happen for one to be allowed to do yibum? You can't say one of the 5 brothers now can do yibum. Why not? Because maybe he's not the brother. If he's not the brother, she didn't get yibum or chalitza yet. The solution will be is she has to get chalitza from 4. That's it. And then the 5th one can do yibum. That's it. For her to remarry, for sure, and then the 5th one, Yisa Zusha Nechlitza Arba Chalitzis Al Kapanim, Halacha Yud Aleph Ketzad, Im Eishes, Ketzad means, what's the logic? He tells you the Mamanasha. Im Eishes Achafi, is punkt the 5th one, Taka, this is his brother's wife, Gabaldi, Yibam Boys. Im Eishes Achafi. Problem is that she's not a woman that's Muteres L'Shok because she's a Yavama. No, she's not a Yavama anymore because she got Chalitza from all the other 4. Hanei Eishes Achma Arba, Hanei Chotzul Arba Tchila. V'chein Ashniya, Chotzul Arba. ואחד מן 4 זה שנוסו לשוינה וחמיש יסענו עד שנמצאו 5 הבנים עד שנמצאו הבנים 5 נוסו 5 אנשים In other words, guys, there are 5 brothers and 5 widows. So each one goes through this procedure. Now, are you mechuyev to do yibum? Of course not. In other words, if none of them want to marry anyone, each one needs chalitza from all 5. Point is, if it works out, Yakir, that each one decides which one he wants to marry, the solution will be, if they both agree to marry each other, that first they get chalitza from all the other ones, and then they do yibum. And now the Rambam concludes, says the Rambam Malach Yud Beis Ula Oilam Kizoid. The Rambam knows that the cases that he gave in Perek Ches covers all of the foundational rules for all the sveikas. If you understand these cases, the Rambam doesn't have to give you more cases. Shekol mish and estapik lacha shema bas chalitza hi leishes leish zeb oy eino. The rule is tzricha lachalitza mimenu ve'eino neteres linasel zarat sheyach leish. Another thing, another cloud. Chol mish and estapik lacha shema biyas asur al ish zeb maybe divrei minu yisraefrim never misyabem eslo. Another rule. Chol shenachlas chalitza gemuula oy nevala beilo ksheira. Now, final halacha yud gimel, and guys. With this, we conclude.